So, Dark Souls is excellent. That's it. That's the video. So yeah. Bye. No, actually, Dark Souls is awesome, but the reasons why it is awesome are many fold. It is a series that, from the outset, wrapped up in mysticism and symbolism and real world mythology, leaning heavily on various real world folk tales and legends and religious practices to strengthen its own themes and the impact that the story has on the player. Dark Souls is a tremendous video game series, a whole series of them that are altogether one of the most engrossing uh, mythologies I've ever experienced, and the story is always so shrouded in mystery, and it's walled off in some ways, as it were, from others, from the player, by the game's own more obvious dramatic traits. Namely, the difficulty. I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. Speaking as someone who survived the original Styx Master of Shadows and Darkest Dungeon, Mountain Blade, and hell, Morrowind. Um, the Soul series, to me, has kind of lost its difficulty. Like ages ago, I just sort of kind of got past it. It doesn't really even seem all that hard to me personally. Like, I get it. The entire history of gaming has been it's in certain ways, it's been training us to play games differently than Dark Souls expects you to play. And Dark Souls itself does kind of screw you over in terms of combat training, shall we say, in ways that like other games don't, because you aren't given the right tools to enjoy a Souls game, the gameplay at least, and what tools you are given are the antithesis of fun in a lot of ways, and that I can totally understand because it's almost a side effect of it being so good, so it's like they needed to cut the corner somewhere. They're under a lot of pressure, and someone somewhere had the misguided idea to kill you from the outset and then give you a shield. And that, of course, implies that this shield is going to help you. You just died. Well, here's something that will protect you from dying. And the shield is the most boring, useless item in the game. It encourages you to play this amazing, dynamic, tactical game like a frickin' turtle, to not take risks, to, turtle up and then get crushed by the next axe wielding monstrosity that comes along and breaks through your guard. It is a recipe for a bad time, when in all actuality, you're supposed to ditch the shield and play the game like a cross between Inigo Montoya and Jamie freaking Lannister. You parry them suckers and dodge and circle strafe, and you gank your enemies, and you take every advantage you can get, mind you, and you're kind of try to be light on your feet, seriously. And there are 10,000 or more than that let's plays on YouTube of unhappy people proving my point for me. Yeah. Um, but I digress. The real reason I'm here is to talk about the lore. The lore, which is incredible. I mean, I'm a writer. I am a writer of fantasy and also of horror, thrillers, etc., etc. Weird fiction, shall we say. And this whole series, I can honestly say, has probably the best lore, the best overarching, complicated mythology in any video game ever. easily outpacing the Elder Scrolls, although primarily because of Skyrim and its like bullcrap oversimplification of some otherwise really cool concepts. Um, but nevertheless, Dark Souls is this monolithic, supernatural, beautiful story spanning thousands upon thousands of years. I'm guessing tens of thousands of human and inhuman existence. And always we are thrown in the right into the middle of the end. Like the end of the world, no less. Everything falling apart. The end of the age of fire. And I'm not sure I can paint a very good picture of the world of the Soul series, the grand cosmology of the gods and mortals and whatnots is um, but I know I can't do it better than others. Right, that's been done before. But what I can say is this: on a step-by-step world building level, you will find nothing quite like Dark Souls ever, and you will constantly be amazed by the sights and sounds and horrors that you encounter. And their choice for presenting the lore as entirely optional, like you can barely pay attention to the lore of the game and instead focus on like the fighting or whatever. It's a genius move. You can choose to take everything seriously if you like. You can role play it like seriously, and you can like and when you do, basically you pick up an item and you can press this little button in your inventory and it'll give you a description of that item. And 99.9% of the time, it will tell you a story. And the story of the item, and by extension, it'll give you piece by piece the story of the world itself. I mean, there is nothing like it. You are an archaeologist, basically, slowly piecing together uh, a tale of greed in the very gods themselves, and these fearful titans who cowered before the strength in humanity itself, and faced this demonized darkness within each of us. And we learn that this this force of dark might not be entirely bad, this dark soul. And we learn that what bad there might in the end be kind of put there by those very gods, to see you broken and cursed and twisted. And even so, there are cycles at play, and I dare say, to use a somewhat Elder Scrollsy reference, kalpas, if you will, where whole worlds and realms rise and fall and rise again, only to be drawn together again at the end of everything, and not the end of an age, not the end of a world, the end of all things, everything falling apart to the point where all of the disparate lands, these scattered realms that have risen and fallen and been ground into nothing, are wrapped up together again and converge upon one location like a frickin' black hole. Everything gets big crunched together in Dark Souls 3, where we kind of get this melting pot of a modern kingdom, and then the kingdoms of Dark Souls 2, and finally the kingdoms of Dark Souls 1. They all get crushed together, um, which is a genius move. And I'm surprised nobody really considered that as a possibility. A lot of the lore nerds just kind of think that they've all existed at the same time, which is um, not not the case. Not as I read it. I read it as the world. Each time the world gets reset, we have a Lordran, then Drangleic, then Lothric, and now that everything is fallen apart and the seams are starting to show, um, Drangleic and Lothric, or Drangleic and Lordran get brought forcefully into Lothric. Like the universe itself is trying. You're going to fix this problem, unkindled one sort of situation. Um, and throughout it all, that's a tremendous final showdown for the apocalyptic world-ending madness of it all, and it's overseen from the shadows primarily by the Primordial Serpents, who think their own dark thoughts and who embody the bones of the earth, and who are liars, and yet they speak the greatest truths. I'm not entirely sure if they're all part of like one big Hydra creature. It's kind of the implication I get. That it's like because you got the two guys, the two jerks, Kingseeker Frampt and Darkstalker Koth, who are both weird, um, and they're both opposed to each other, and yet I'm almost inclined to say that they're like almost both after the same goal. Um, there are some compelling theories that like one or both of them are lying to you, that they want you to do the opposite thing to what they're telling you to do. Like especially in like Frampt's case, that he might very well be like playing both sides, as it were. And he might even be responsible for the chaos of Dark Souls 1's uh, Abyss DLC. It more likely it was the other one, Koth. But it would be much more interesting if it were Frampt. But I digress. The Soul series is, in the end, just a pure joy for that reason. Nothing is spelled out. It's a mystery, and it's a joy just for the gameplay, honestly. I really enjoy that kind of stuff, and I'll never get over that time that, like, I beat the Nameless King first try in Dark Souls 3, but, the, I, it is the story that has captured my imagination. It's the story that has inspired so much of my writing, from the White Worm Chronicles to upcoming works, a medieval horror and a science fantasy alike. Both wonderful, wonderful stories which could not exist without the Soul series, with that sort of non mythology, and that with the knowledge of alchemy and world souls and spirits and darkness and whatnot. It's basically an introduction to like uh, weird Gnostic symbolism and alchemy and stuff. And I'm here for that. In researching Dark Souls, I have learned so much of actual real world uh, knowledge and information and mythology, and for that I must thank the great mind, creator of Dark Souls, Hidetaka Miyazaki. Long may he reign and keep coming up with weird backcrap ideas. Sincerely, uh, I yeah, I hope he keeps up the good work. And to all that end, I say, if you know, you know. So, yeah, the Dark Souls series is grand. No notes, brilliant. Actually, maybe one or two notes, and that's like get rid of all the poison swamps in those games, because there are a lot of poison swamps. Um, Also, no one likes Dark Souls 2. I love it. I love it for that matter. I seriously, some of the best lore in the game. I don't understand what people's problem is with it. I mean, their problem is probably that it plays like ass compared to the others. That is probably a turnoff. But I'm here for the lore anyway, and there's some great lore in that game. So yeah. Um. Bye.